Today, welcome to Beyond the Continent. Now today, the long-running political and legal fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal takes a dramatic turn in Washington. Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has called on President Donald Trump to testify under oath before a Republican-led panel of the United States House of Representatives investigating Epstein's network. Clinton, who was subpoenaed to appear before the committee, accused lawmakers of attempting to shield political allies and divert scrutiny away from Trump's past relationship with Epstein. She insists the hearing risks becoming a political exercise rather than a genuine search for accountability for survivors. Her husband, former President Bill Clinton, is also set to testify as pressure mounts for transparency following the Justice Department's release of millions of documents linked to Epstein's case. The central question now is this inquiry about truth and justice for victims or a deepening partisan battle ahead of a crucial election cycle? Joining me to discuss more on this, we have Alexander von Rugen, Global Policy Analyst in Ontario, Canada. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us.
My pleasure.
You're welcome as always. Now, let's take a look at this.
Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I don't know when the video will be out. I don't know when the transcript will be out. We've asked that they be out as quickly as possible, and then you can see everything. Thank you. To Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information.
And now we'll come back to you, Alexander. Thank you for staying with us, by the way. Now, with the House spending millions on a probe that Secretary Clinton calls a partisan fishing expedition, at what point does this stop being a legal inquiry and starts being a $70 billion erosion of public trust in congressional oversight?
Well, I think the weaponizing of this is more on the Democrats' side. It's the Hillary Clinton demanded a public examination as opposed to a private one. Mind you, she's got more plausible deniability on contacts with Epstein than her husband does. She mentioned she had a casual relationship with Maxwell, but Maxwell was also invited to her daughter's wedding long after criminal charges had been exposed against Epstein. The fact that she had a 4-page introductory statement published a day before her presentation to the congressional committee is another proof and point of the grandstanding. She wants to bring Trump into this, saying that he should be questioned, he should be analyzed. She's trying to discredit Trump and the Republican Party because we have midterm elections coming up. So she's using this as a very strategic means of creating a negative aura that perhaps the existing Republican regime is still hiding information and they're not being transparent. She's citing benefits to the victims, which is something we can go into deep discussion here because they've already been looked after. The investigation now is not of as much as sexual improprieties with minors. It's political transfer of information on confidential files. Charges have already been laid in England against former Prince Andrew and Peter Mendelsohn. Those are the two criminal charges that have come out of the file so far, and there may be more. But this is political theater right now. The underlying events on these files politically, in terms of national security, go much deeper.
Okay. Now, Donald Trump's name appears tens of thousands of times in these new files, yet the committee has prioritized the Clintons. So, Alex, is this a legitimate legal strategy, or are we witnessing the weaponization of the dossiers to influence the 2026 midterm cycle?
Well, there was transfer of cash to the Clintons by Epstein. In fact, Epstein funded the initial creation and funding of the Clinton Foundation. Ghislaine Maxwell was heavily involved in that. That goes back to 2003, 2005, prior to the criminal prosecution. And the Clintons stayed in contact with Maxwell up until 2018, after the charges were exposed. So, in terms of Donald Trump, of course he's in the files. He was a celebrity in New York. Epstein lived in New York. Epstein and him were friends until Epstein was charged and Trump caught him poaching his employees from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, and they severed relations at that time. But the references to Trump are cited by the FBI investigation on press releases, things and events out of New York, of which Trump was in the paper virtually every day.
Now, Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 times. So analytically, is it plausible for a high-level political operative like Hillary Clinton to be entirely unaware of such frequent contact?
Well, from an outsider's point of view, I would say the Clintons have an open marriage. Clinton got impeached for improprieties in the White House with a White House assistant. There was a big scandal, the Lewinsky scandal, as it's known, and he was actually impeached for it for lying under oath. But then that was overruled by the Senate, and he continued his presidency while impeached. Now, when you have that kind of track record, and the marriage stayed intact, they didn't divorce, you have to question, does the leopard still keep his spots, or did he wash them off?
So, yeah. Alex, you also did say that, Clinton dismissed Ghislaine Maxwell as a casual acquaintance, but Maxwell attended, the Clinton wedding. From a risk assessment standpoint, does this suggest, what do you think? Does it suggest a failure of Clinton's vetting process, or does it suggest a deeper systemic integration of Epstein's network into the global elite?
The scandal broke about Epstein, everybody wanted to distance themselves from him. Everybody claimed they weren't associated. They ran into him at a party, what have you, and that's for political posturing. With the Clintons, it goes much, much deeper than that. There's a money trail. The first $1 million in the Clinton Foundation was arranged by Ghislaine Maxwell, and she made introductions to other donors. There's been an investigation on the foundation for non-compliance of reporting certain donors from the state of Qatar and the state of Algeria. Okay, so I think that's the heart of some of the investigation here. There's an overlap with Epstein. Clearly, what happened on the sexual charges was a honey trap for Epstein's business. He was using sexual lures with young girls to attract politicians and powerful elites around the planet that he would then monetize into his business. And there's a long history of that. Prince Andrew, case in point. I can give you an example. Prince Andrew's house was on the market in 2005 for 5 years. No activity. Suddenly it's sold after his association with Epstein. It sells for £3 million over asking price to a colleague. It was a billionaire from Kazakhstan who was introduced to Andrew by Jeffrey Epstein. So the question is, was that a bribe, a hidden bribe? Well, that's plausible, but again, till it's proven in court, we don't know.
By subpoenaing a former first family, based on these files, do you think that the U.S. has set a precedent that will allow future administrations to weaponize? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. So do you think that, I was asking that by subpoenaing a former first family based on these files, do you think that the U.S. has set a precedent, that will allow future administrations to weaponize the 2.3 million pages of evidence against any political opponent that they choose?
Well, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. They're mentioned in the files. There's a paper trail of money transfers to the Clintons. It's a logical approach that they should be interviewed and ask about the nature of their relationship and how deep it went. If that weren't in fact the catalyst to the interview, it'd be they'd be hard pressed to weaponize politics when someone isn't named or there's no clear evidence that indicates they may be guilty of something. These congressional investigations are done when there maybe isn't enough clear evidence and they're hoping through the interview that they're going to uncover things that they didn't know, or they need a further explanation on some bleak emails that they have a record of through the investigation. So it is a discovery mission, but you have to have plausible reasons to call the interviewer in.
Now, let's talk about the survivors now. These people have actually waited 20 years for transparency. So if the committee ignores the hundreds of other high-profile names in the documents to focus on 2 rivals, are they effectively granting de facto immunity to the rest of the Epstein network?
No, there's numerous interviews that have taken place. In the case of the Clintons, Hillary Clinton wanted it to be public. She's using it to grandstand for the Democratic Party for the midterm elections. That's clear. You can tell by her statement and then her press release afterwards. Because as far as Epstein goes, I'm sure Hillary Clinton is completely innocent. Unless she has an affection for young girls, I don't see her being involved in any of this. Her husband, that might be another story. Now, in terms of the victims, what we're not being told is that there's 2 distinct courts in America. There's a criminal court and there's a civil court. They've gone, the corporate ambulance chasers have used, these are the lawyers for the victims, have used Epstein's criminal charges to pursue civil actions against banks that Epstein worked with and prove that they were in compliance, knowing that he was using these honeypots as lures for his business endeavors. To date, over $480 million has been paid to the victims. JP Morgan alone paid $290 million out of the court. Deutsche Bank, $75 million. The Epstein estate, $121 million to the victims that are unnamed. Virginia Giuffre, who is now deceased, who was the first one to come out, has received numerous payoffs. $500,000 initially to silence her back in 2007 when she charged Epstein. That was not a court settlement. It was civil. Therefore, no criminal charges were pursued. She received another $16 million out of court from Prince Andrew. And we'll remember the infamous interview he did on the BBC television, which is a clear case of how not to conduct an interview.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alexander von Rugen, for speaking so expertly on this. We'll definitely have you again if there's any update on this particular case. Thank you so much.